Well, good evening and welcome. This is a Loaded HQ special. This evening, we are going to chat in particular about mental health and in particular men's mental health. So I'm joined tonight by Rich, who is obviously off Loaded HQ1, Jamie, who has been on some of the pods that we've been on and is a good friend of the show and of ourselves, and then Josh Banyard, who has obviously been doing a very big campaign, Be a Game Changer, with the Newcastle United Foundation. So we are going to have a chat. If people are watching, get your comments up and we will throw them up as we get there. But one of the things that I want to do first, just to get people thinking about the subject and for us guys to have something to talk about before I kind of, open up on my piece, I suppose, is I just want to throw this up and read through these. So with regards to some quick, very mental health facts, 3 times as many men die by suicide than women do. The average age for men in suicide rate is the age of 40 to 49. And on average, there are 12 male suicides a day, which is 84 a week, which is an absolutely astonishing number. Women are 3 to 4 times more likely to attempt a suicide, although 3 to 4 times more men are likely to die from that attempt compared to women. Suicide methods for men, strangely enough, and I found this very alarming, is firearms or hanging, while in women, the main methods that are there, are self-poisoning and self-harm leading to bleed-outs. Now, again, not easy topics to talk about, but, we are going to try and break some of those stigmas tonight by talking about it in a very open way. As it says there, stereotypes and stigmas, it is okay to not be okay, which we will talk about. From a perspective of here in Ireland, Ireland's youth suicide rate from depression is the 4th highest in Europe. And I was staggered by that number, absolutely staggered. And the rate of females under the age of 25 committing suicide from 2012 to 2019 has risen by 93%. Lads, I've just, I spent a bit of time researching today, and I'm sure, Josh, you've probably, seen some of these numbers, and we'll talk about those. But I was genuinely shocked when I seen some of those numbers, and I think when you look at that last one, that suicides, the rate of females under 25 committing suicide, that the rate has risen by 93, nearly 94% in 7 years. I just find that absolutely staggering.
Mind blown.
It is absolutely mind blown. So, I think with mental health, it's always, in particular for guys, and in particular, around football and around, the culture scene, I suppose, boys being boys and all that kind of stuff. There is this, stigma of, here, do you know what, man up, man, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. What's wrong with you? And, I think it is, is generally hard. And what really focused me into it was late kind of November, December time last year. Unfortunately, my mum tried to commit suicide on 2 different attempts. So, luckily, she's still with us. And a lot of people don't come through that, but it was an absolute shock, a first time round. And then within 6 weeks for it to happen again, I felt that I kind of went through a process of mourning twice over. But then it was like somebody coming with a surprise party going, ta-da, hey, she's back again. And I think that's really made me sit and think about depression and about being able, and, Richie, I'm sure would tell you, I've been quite lucky in the kind of, the gang of us that have been doing Loaded HQ and stuff. Jamie and myself have had good conversations both ways. It's been far easier for me to open up with people I don't really know than it has been able to open up and talk about the subject with family or the wife or with friends, or, my mates will be very much of the same persuasion of, you'll be all right, man, come on. put a smile on. And that's very easy to say if you're not going through that situation or you've never experienced that situation. So that for me really is, is where I've been over the last while. I'm lucky that I've got a good support network, but there's part of me still probably 3-4 months on that, I am looking at having some counseling. I am looking at doing something positive that, I sit and talk things through, because what's come from me with the issues, with my mum has been a lot of unanswered questions in that, why and what brought that on, and, what were the thoughts initially before, what were the thoughts afterwards, what were all these unanswered questions that I don't have the answers to. And I think the more you have time to dwell on those, the more it can put you into a bit of a spiral. And I think, we're probably quite lucky in a way that we have these kind of forums and shows where we're able to get on, and we have, an outlet to be able to talk about these things. But I think the other thing that plays into that, and I think we've certainly seen those things over recent weeks, is, Twitter can have a really good side and a very, very bad side. And I think at the minute, in particular for the NUFC fan base, probably since the takeover and stuff, we've had a particularly divided fan base where there's been a lot of issues floating around and people are getting frustrated. And I think, whilst it's been a bit of an outlet for me, I think, and I'll let Richie talk after this, I think it can also drive you to a place where you don't want to be either. So kind of that's I suppose kind of where mine is at. But why, from a point of blokes, and I'll open it up to everyone, why is there such a stigma? Josh, I'll start with you. You've been working on this campaign with the foundation, so tell us a little bit about that and the Be a Game Changer campaign, and why is there such a stigma? Why is it hard for fellas to talk about this kind of thing?
For me, what I've seen is it's not necessarily embarrassment, but it's the not having that feeling that you should be weaker than your friends or your siblings or your peers. And with the campaign, we're just trying to end that stigma, and it's all about using the power of the badge to make men really open up and discuss their feelings. And we find that obviously up here, most of your chats are about Newcastle United and what's going on in Newcastle United and the fan base. And so we've used the badge to encourage men to sort of come forward, open up and speak about how they're feeling. And it works. It worked for me massively, because I had that stigma where I just always thought, I need to man up. I need to get on with my life. I need to be strong. I think when you're the man of the house and you've come from a time where you look at your dad's the man of the house. Your friends are strong and individuals, and they're just there and they're doing their all, and you just look and you think, well, I can't be weak. That's not how this should be.
Yeah.
And I just used to constantly hear I played rugby, so it was always man up, get on with it, move on, be strong. And then I finally sort of realised that opening up is the stronger way to be. Bottling up is not necessarily a coward's way or a weak way, but it's not as strong as opening up and talking about your feelings. And I'm the same as you, Martin. I find it harder to talk to people I'm close to than I do to talk to strangers. And I still say, if I hadn't been able to talk to strangers, then I would have lost my life, because I couldn't open up to my family and friends, because I've always been the independent, strong man of the group. And that. So it's a difficult thing, because the stigma's massive, and the stigma attached to it is that it's a weakness. And people look at you like, I had it all the time, they look at you like you're weak and you're suffering, and there's that sympathy look. And that's what no one wants. So they tend to bottle it up. But the fantastic thing the foundation's doing is they're showing people that have got strength and showing that they have also got this weakness and this the ability to open up. And it's using the football club as the basis of it, and using St James's Park as sort of like, I don't want to say church, but look at the cathedral on the hill. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And people look at that as the beacon, and it's just, they do such an amazing job with the campaign. And it's the team that work there, the volunteers that get involved, and just people that hashtag it and chat about mental health and try and sort of like expose the feelings attached to it.
Yeah. Okay. Richie, I know we've chatted numerous times. We spoke a bit last night, in particular about, kind of yesterday really where Twitter was. And, the two of us kind of said, we're kind of, I said, I made a comment last night when we came off the back of Loaded HQ, and I said, you know what? I kind of think I'm going to bail out from Twitter. I might even just close my own personal account and just kind of throw me a few bits up on the Loaded HQ one, because, certainly recently, every time you go on, it seems to become this tool, and not just Twitter, Facebook, and other social media, platforms seems to give certain, shall we say, faceless people an ability to be able to strike out, and I've seen things directed around mental illness, around kids who are sick, and pictures gone up and other stuff. And I think one of the big things for me, and I've seen, and again we spoke, Richie, last night, was about the need to pull away, because getting involved in it and sending that tweet or even reading those tweets brings you back to a place that you don't want to be. So what's your view on the whole, the stigma around it, and the whole being able to pull back? Where are things with you at the minute?
I think off our conversation, I wasn't a big Twitter user until the takeover was announced, and my wife used it quite a bit, and she said, look, if you want to find out all the Newcastle stuff, you'll find out first on Twitter before you will on Sky Sports and stuff like that. And at first, I thought it was fantastic. I think when the takeover was proposed, and there was such a positive atmosphere, and it was the first time in a long time since Mike Ashley's there. It was the fan base, was united for a change, and everybody was pulling the same direction. And I think I've said this on numerous shows before. I think when our fan base pulls in the same direction, we are a force to be reckoned with. And the positivity at the time was fantastic. And then you start getting caught along that wave, and of course, obviously, then all the stuff that was coming in trying to interfere with it, and then people were having different reviews on the takeover and what was happening, and it put a big divide right down the middle. Then all of a sudden, you had faceless accounts coming out and attacking such and such accounts. Someone who possibly said that they'd heard some information from someone who worked the ground or something like that, and then all of a sudden that wasn't true, so they would get hammered and stuff like that, and it became so toxic. And the amount of times over, I'd say probably the first 6 months of us being on Twitter, where I just had to say, do you know what, I need a weekend off. I need to take myself away, because you sometimes get you get dragged into it, and you don't need that. And obviously, with me having my mental health issues over the last few years, I was starting to look at things that I shouldn't be looking at, and was starting to take things personally. So getting away, even just for a few days, to clear your head and stuff like that, it was fantastic. Some of the things where we've said before, Martin, when we've talked on, even on Loaded Football Week, the playlist we have, you go on a nice little walk, clear your head, get some fresh air, gives you a different perspective on life. You look at the outside world, not just four walls like a lot of us have been stuck in within the last 12 months when we've been in lockdown and not been able to go anywhere. But I definitely think taking time away when needed is essential. It's voluntary. You don't need to be here. You don't need to feel as though you're going to be missing out on something. It'll still be here when you feel a bit better. Hopefully, and in the next few months, especially the NUFC Twitter, it'll become a bit more united again when we know what's happening with the future of our club. It's just been a horrific 12 months for not just the club, but the whole country and the whole world, because of the way the pandemic has been. And I think it's unprecedented at times that we've been in. And the fact that the takeover got played out in the public eye, which I think wrong, and we've all said it, silence should be golden. That's how it should have been to start with. But to have it played out in public, with the amount of social media nowadays, the that everybody can get involved in. It's become one of the most horrible things over the last 12 months. And some people have been friends before all this and have known people really, really well and could have relied on them for whatever. And now they don't speak just because of views. You know, you don't really go. I don't really talk to you about politics, Martin. I've never spoke to Jamie about it before. Obviously, I've never spoken to you about it, Joshua. But I wouldn't talk politics with you because I think that's a private sort of thing. But all these sort of views that we've had, that sometimes we talk in a pub, it's just got, it's been like it's escalated on live TV for everyone to watch, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So taking just a few minutes, hours, days away. Katie, our good friend who was on Ladies' Night, she literally took a big step back, full stop, and just disappeared for about 6 weeks. No one saw, and she's come back, I think, just this weekend, and she seems, refreshed,
revitalized.
And that's needed sometimes. Do you know what I mean? So, the war we've had over the last few days. I said to you last night, Martin, it's something because of the way my recovery's been from my mental health. I was luckily got discharged on Thursday, so I'm in the best positive mindset I've been in for the last couple of years, and I can't let myself get involved in it. I've just literally plugged the channel, but I haven't got involved in any arguments or whatever because I just cannot get drawn into it because I don't want to have a negative effect on my mental health again.
Yeah, I seen a couple of things today on Twitter because I've been following. Obviously, we're quite lucky that we've got some superb sponsors in Mind, Body, and Soul, and I'll talk about them in a while. But I was looking at Menkind and other programs that are out there, and somebody actually sent me something today and said, do you know what, being on social media with a mental health problem is like being the star of the Truman Show with Jim Carrey. Everything is there for everyone to see. Everybody has an opinion, but nobody actually knows what the true life experience is unless you've been there and done it. I didn't really think about it. And then my missus and the little fella disappeared off to the park today. I had a little bit of time on my own here today. I was pottering around, cut my grass. I just had a bit of time to think, and I was kind of going, do you know what? It's actually so true. Unless you are in that situation, and from my experience, I've not had anybody that I've known, really closely that's attempted suicide. And my mum was probably the last person I would have said, she has a couple of issues, but she was able to get out and about. She's a great place. She lives in Washington. She's got friends near her. She would have been the last person I would have said would do something like that, and to get that phone call was horrific. Not once, but twice. But one of the weird things I found, when people rang me to say, how's your mum, Martin? Instead of saying that, they were asking me, what did she do? How did she do it? What was it like? And I really struggled to cope. And second time round, because what she did was a lot more, and I won't get into the gory details, but what she did was so much worse. And Jamie, you know what I'm talking about with this. What she did the second time around was so much more horrific. I had to stop taking phone calls because even the likes of a friend, a very, very close friend, asked me, what did the room look like afterwards? And I struggled. I had a particularly bad time off the back of those questions where I had to detach, put the phone down, have a week away from work, have some time away, get off Twitter. I came off the shows probably for about 2-3 weeks, wasn't going to come back on, had contacted people. But when I look back at it now, all I wanted was for somebody to say to me, are you okay? And not one person asked me that question. And I think it goes back, Josh, to what you said is I'm the man of the house. I've got 3 young kids. I work hard. The wife works, I work. Been lucky. We've both been working during a pandemic. But not one person that rang me, not an uncle, not an aunt, not a friend, not the neighbor. Nobody actually stood in front of me put an arm around me and went, "Are you okay?" And and now that I've had that bit of time and I look back at it, I actually find it hard to believe that nobody actually asked me that question. And it's just, it does come back. Jamie, we spoke, very, very candidly months back when I first got to know you. And you were having a bit of a bad time. And, I had only kind of met you through the shows, and I made a point of sending you a DM, not because I felt it was the right thing to do, but taking into account what had happened to me was I just basically sent you a DM to say, "Are you okay, mate?" And we ended up getting on the phone to each other, and I think we spent 3 hours on the phone together, chatting about all things on a Friday evening with a couple of beers and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you find, why do you think that there is such this stigma and whole nature of people around a man not being great, not feeling well, having a mental issue or having a mental health problem? Why do you think people, even in this day and age, even with some of those stats, 93% of an increase in female suicides under the age of 25, why are people still stigmatized by sitting down with somebody and chatting about it in an open forum? Why is there such a problem with talking about this, in particular with fellas? Why is that?
I'm just going to go off topic for a little bit, for a little second, Martin. Just wanted to say that I'm really chuffed you're in a really good place. I know that all the years I know you're all off camera. I'm really glad, Rich, that you're in a really good place, mate, and keep that positive mindset, because that's what you need with this. I know I have back and forth with you, and I see you as a really good friend now, but I just want to say on here, because this is the right platform to do it, that it's really lovely to have got to know your journey and know that you're in a positive place. So if you need to cut that negativity, you do what's best for you, mate. That was a little bit off topic, sorry, but
no, that's fine.
Thanks for that support as well, Jamie. I know obviously you were there for Martin as well, and you've had your own issues as well. So to take that time out to talk to someone who you barely knew, but it was such a help in my recovery. It was so important. And I know I've told you numerous times. I told you on the other podcast when you came on our Loaded Football Weekly, when we talked about mind, body, and soul at the time. There, it was so important. I'll always appreciate that. I always will, mate.
Yeah, obviously I've got to know you a lot better than when we had our first conversation, and it's just so nice from a friendship point of view to hear that you're in a good place, mate. So I just wanted to, I feel like this is the right platform to get that out there, and it's really great to hear, mate. So keep doing your thing, mate. I'm working hard, and if you ever need me, you know where I am, of course. But sorry, Martin, that was a bit off topic, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, it wasn't off topic. It was just I just wanted to show appreciation, because it's great to hear that. I just think it's like what Josh said. It's this for men, from my point of view. And if anybody in the comments is listening to this and they want to ask me a question, I'm an open book with this sort of thing. If you want to know anything, ask me the question and I'll answer it on the show, no problem at all. I think it's just a case of going what Josh said. I was the same. Like I've got 3 sisters. They're all younger than me. I feel like I have to protect them. I need to be their knight in shining armor, so to speak. I need to set the standard on how I treat my girlfriend. I like them to think that their boyfriend should treat them there, because I like to think I'm a good partner. I'm a loyal partner. I try and have a positive relationship with my partner, but not just for me and my partner, for my sisters to see as well. Because I don't want them to be in bad relationships. And it all goes back to I lost my little brother when I was younger, which is quite a difficult subject to talk about, so I'm not gonna get on it too much. But my mum was a single parent, and she was bringing us up, trying her best, sort of trying to get by, working a full-time job whilst trying to bring myself and 2 sisters up. And it just goes back to what Josh said. It's the whole, I'm the man of the house. I need to protect. I need to be strong. I need to I need to be that gladiator in the house. I'm the man of the house, and I think that's partly the problem, Martin. I feel like we get this armor tool and we feel like we're invincible, but do you know what? We ain't. And I learned the hard way with that one, because I always thought I'm quite sure of myself, you know. I'm quite a confident kid. I was a good footballer back home. Everybody always knew me for being a good player and all of this. I was always nice and friendly when I met strangers, and I was also trying to sort of be this man of the house. And then I've always had really strong personalities of females around me. My grandmother was a very strong lady from Scotland. She ruled with an iron fist, and you didn't ever answer her back if she told you something, you know. And that upbringing brought me up properly, you know. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. My mum's a very strong personality, so they all like sort of echoed that to me, and I feel like I took that on board a little bit. My grandfather, my granny and granddad on my father's side have both passed away now. Unfortunately, they both passed away due to cancer, but they were very strong people, you know, and I felt like I've tried to sort of take that on board. But sometimes it's not about being strong. Sometimes it's about being honest. And when my grandmother passed away, I suppose I made it's quite strange talking about this, to be honest, but I suppose I just tried to act like it didn't happen, because, and that's probably going to sound stupid to somebody that's listening to this, but I'll try and explain. I moved, obviously, you all know, I live in Newcastle. For anybody that doesn't know me and's never seen me on the show before, I do live in Newcastle. I don't have the beautiful accent, but I do live in Newcastle. But so when my granny passed away, because I wasn't physically where she lived, it was like it didn't happen. And I know that probably sounds ridiculous, because I was there when she passed and I physically knew she passed away. But gradually over time, it just started grinding me. And I had a couple of things in my life. I won't go into them too much, but I was working in a very negative environment. I didn't enjoy going to work. I spent time with people that probably wasn't bringing anything to the table, as in positivity wise. And that's a big one. And I know you touch on it, Rich. It's so important to have good people around you. And over time, I just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where the big thing for me was, I thought Newcastle was the problem, because I was traveling back and to and from work all the time. It was long journeys. I'm from a little town. You know, I wasn't used to it. So I thought, I'm going to go home. I'm going to plot myself back home, and I'm going to start again, because I don't know what's going on at the moment, but I'm not really enjoying it. So, and then it really hit me with my grandmother, like really, really hit me. And we were like really, really close. I mean, she taught me the basics in life, and I just completely lost control, to the point where I hated myself. I'll be honest with you. I hated myself. I put loads of weight on. I was always this young lad, always really fit in school, good at PE, good 100 meters runner, done a bit of boxing. And then all of a sudden I was overweight, and I didn't like looking at myself in the mirror. It affected my relationship, because I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I won't go too much into it, but I'm sure you can imagine. And I just absolutely hated everything, Martin. I was miserable. I hated the way I looked. I felt the lowest of the low, and I've never been in that position, and I didn't know what it was. And it got to the point where my girlfriend came into the house. I don't want to take too much time up here with you, just because I know others have got other things to say, but my girlfriend come into the house when I was ironing, and I'd been dealing with this for a long time now, and I'd put it off, shall we say, and I'm having a bad week, and a bad week becomes the bad month, and then so and so and so and so. My girlfriend was talking to me, and I had that much going on in my head. I'm trying to be as open as I can here to really get you to how I was thinking. She was standing pretty close to me anyway, probably the length of an ironing board, and I couldn't hear her, Martin. I couldn't hear what she was saying, mate. She was talking to me, and I could see she was speaking, but I had that much going on in my head. I was anxious, I was sweating, I was nervous, and I didn't have a clue what was going on. And I'm so grateful to my stepmother, because my stepmother sat me down. You know, when you need that calming influence, and my stepmom won't be against me saying this. She might listen to this. We didn't always get on very well. We had a difficult time when I was younger, but I was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I didn't like being told what to do, and she tried to put some rules in place for me, as you do as a step parent, and sometimes I didn't listen. But anyway, we've rekindled our relationship over time, and she said to me, I don't think you're being you, mate. I think you probably need to have a little think about going for therapy, going and seeing a counsellor. And then the macho man come again, and it was, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'll be fine, honestly. It's just, but it got to the point where I knew after that, when I was ironing that incident, that was it for me. That was rock bottom. And I went and got the help, and over time, really, really worked hard on myself for a lot of years. And I can sit here now. I had really bad depression. I do still deal with anxiety. If I'm in a busy place like the Metro Centre or something, I do really, really struggle. Not to the point where I can't do my shopping, but I know in my own head that I'm aware of what's going on, and I'm struggling a little bit, and I'm getting a bit nervous. And my girlfriend knows the signs, and I've cut so many people from my life. And do you know what? Sometimes, and this people might not want to hear this because it's brutal honesty, but sometimes people in your circle are not good for you. Some people, and that's pretty deep.
Tough to hear.
And I've ended relationships, friendships with people because I didn't feel like they were getting what I was saying, and it was the whole just get on with it, man. The whole man up thing come up again, and over time and a lot of work and dedication, I've been able to beat depression without medication, and that was a personal decision of mine. I'm not saying for anybody listening to this that that's the right thing to do, but it's just a decision I made, and I'm quite stubborn, to be honest with you. And I sit here now, and I don't have it no more. And to be honest with you, I absolutely love myself, you know. And that's a big thing for a man, because it's the whole macho man. But I'm in a really, really good place. I feel like I have my days, don't get me wrong, but everybody does. But I feel like I'm going in the right direction, and I'm happy, you know. And I wake up now and I feel happy, and it's such a good feeling, because it wasn't always like that. And it's all about having the right people in your life to bring that honesty out. And I remember sitting with my counsellor, and she'd done a timeline, and I think I got to about 11 years old in my life, and she stopped and was like borderline tears, my own counsellor, which does this for a living, and says, I can't believe how much you've been through. And my answer to it was, but that's just my life, like, you know. And it's not always been easy up in Newcastle either, Martin. I know you guys know I love your football team. I love the city. I love the people. I have a great life up here that I've built, but it wasn't always like that, you know. Yeah. And I've been through a lot of trauma. And I tell you what, you appreciate the good times when you've been through to the depths there. And the thing is with mental health as well, Martin, I'm not going to drag on much longer, mate. It's very individual. Yeah. So your problems won't be my problems, but I'll still have as bad a problems as you do. But it's always different, because people deal with different things. People have lost children. People have lost partners. People have lost parents. And I think if you've got a core group of good people around you and positive people, like, don't ever change that. Don't think you need to go down to their level of their negativity. My mindset is, if you're going to bring negative vibes to me, I'm just going to sit and ignore you. If I'm not interested. And I'm pretty brutal with it, to be honest with you. But I feel like what Rich said earlier, it's all about looking after in here. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
And whatever you need to do, that's what you need to do. But sorry, I went on there a bit.
No. Listen, fair play to you, Josh. How do we change this? How do we get more shows like this out there? How do we get more fellas talking? If you look at it through, you know, the lockdown in particular, it's probably come, these things have probably started to come to more of a forefront because of lockdown. Now, obviously, you know, Ireland's a little bit slower in opening up because we've not, you know, anybody that's read and seen, we've not had the flow of vaccines through numerous reasons politically, which I won't get into. Obviously, England, Scotland, Wales, seem to be getting to grips with it, and things will gradually open up. But those problems still exist. Teenagers still have depression. Guys still have suicidal thoughts. Women have suicidal thoughts. People are self-harming. All these things still go on there. So how do we? I don't think we'll ever fix it, because, as Jamie said, my problem's not Josh's problem, and yours isn't Jamie's, and Jamie's isn't Rich's, and our 4 isn't somebody else's that's out there watching. But how, is there enough being done? You're doing the work with the foundation. To me, there's not enough of an outlet for men, and I don't want people to come at me and go, well, women have the same problem. Absolutely, and I'm not trying to advocate one against the other or anything else, but there doesn't seem to be as big an outlet for men or teenage guys to have an outlet to be able to talk about these kind of things. So how do we change it? How do we drive forward and start to open up and bring an outlet to it?
I think the best way is by normalizing it, and shows like this, and I've just started my own show, The Locker Room. It's just seeing people talk about their problems. I mean, with the stuff I'm doing, we're trying to normalize it by it's 2 blokes sitting down having a beer and having a chat, and it's just making people realize it's a normal conversation to have. If you're struggling, then why can't you talk to your mates about the fact that you're struggling? They're supposed to be the peer group that's closest to you. My friends have always been closer than my family. That's just always the way it's been, because I traveled a lot when I was younger through rugby. My friends were my family, and we made it normal to talk to each other about how we felt. When I went through what I went through, I bottled it all up and I kept it inside, and it was the most dangerous thing I could have ever done. And there was nothing in place that I saw then, and this was only a couple of years ago. I went through the darkest period where I tried to take my life a few times. There was nothing online, there was nothing in the papers talking about mental health. And now the fact that you guys have got this going with the mental health, there's a few other pods that I've seen on Twitter with mental health. If we can make it as normal as possible for people to open up and have a conversation, or to see people physically talking and opening up over a beer, over a bit of food or whatever, then that's the best work we can do. And it's the work that we're trying to do at the foundation, is trying to make it normal to talk about what's going on. I mean, one of my biggest therapists was going to the football, and I'm lucky I live in Newcastle now. I'm 10-15 minutes from the stadium, so it's a much easier journey than I used to have. I used to travel up from London every weekend, and that was my passion. Now we're using these platforms to do the same, and we're physically talking about it. And just I keep using the word normal, but make it a normal conversation to have. Don't make it an awkward, I feel sorry for you conversation, which I've had plenty of times with people where I've opened up and they've sort of looked at you like you've just trod on the cat. That's not the way it should be. It should be my conversations I had were dark, and my friends didn't know how to react. But if I'd spoken to them more clearly, more frequently, before it got to that really dark place, it would have been much easier for them to take. So if we can get people opening up and talking in a normal sense about how they're feeling and where their mind's going, and it's going to make it a lot easier to try and end the stigma attached to it all. Because that's the main problem, is people think it's not a thing that should be spoken about. But it's perfectly all right to sit there and talk about the match or to slag someone off, but it's not normal to talk about your feelings, and that's where we need to approach it differently. And I think a lot of podcasts now are doing really good work around it, and are joining forces to do work around it as well, and just make that conversation a little bit more normal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Interestingly, obviously, we started to float. When myself, Richie, Chris, and Daz started doing the shows ourselves a few weeks back, very, very early on, I kind of said, I wanted to do a show on mental health because of my situation, and I wanted to, I suppose, use this as an avenue to say to other lads, I'm 51, I've had a pretty good life. I've been lucky. I've been able to travel. I moved to Dublin 22 years ago. So, I was late 20s, so early kind of 98, 99 as a and a youngish English lad moving over to the middle of Dublin. That was not an easy move back in '99. There was a lot of resentment. I wouldn't have probably sat there with an Ireland jersey on. I certainly wouldn't have gone into Dublin with an England jersey on. But things do change, and I think political fronts change, and all these things open up. But we started talking. I said, I want to do a show on mental health, and if we can get a few people on, we can talk about it. It does start to break down those barriers. And we put the poster up. We've been tweeting it out for a couple of days. Around 10:30, 11 o'clock last night, I got a message. And I won't say who it's from. I won't name names. But what it said was, don't bother doing the show. I can't remember the full. Something along the lines of, don't bother doing the show. You're not a effing counselor. So you don't even do a podcast any justice. And that was all it said. Now, I wasn't going to bring that up today. I kind of thought about it a couple of times while we've been chatting here. And I thought, do you know what? That's exactly the kind of reason why I want to do this show. And that's exactly the reason that we'll continue to do this kind of stuff, because this is what's needed. Mm-hmm. Because if we sat back and we did nothing, if we get half a dozen people watching tonight, and on playback over the week, we get another half a dozen. But somewhere along the line, one person is affected and makes a change or makes a decision that's the right decision and does something positive and not negative, then do you know what? I'll run one of these shows every week. Mm-hmm. And I'll open up the DMs and I'll happily take a phone call from people, because that's what's needed. Too many people, in my opinion, are blocking off and going, yeah, it's a touchy subject, mate. Don't want to talk about it. Whereas, maybe, as I said, I'm a bit older. It's probably easier for me to open up, and I had this chat with my missus last night about how much detail I will go into. But I'm not ashamed to say that my mum tried to commit suicide. There's nothing shameful in that. My mum is genuinely unwell. She is still within a facility out in Sunderland. They're helping her with progressive works to try and get her to a point that she will be, and as Jamie said, in a right frame of mind and in a good place mentally to be able to re-engage with society and come back out. But there's nothing shameful in that. I'm not ashamed of her. I'm not ashamed of any of that. I'm certainly not ashamed of talking about it. So to the person that did send me the message last night, it doesn't make a difference, mate, because we're going to crack on anyway.
It just highlights the stigmas, though. That's a massive highlight of the stigma attached.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was talking to a couple of my mates. It was probably January time, and we were having a Zoom kind of thing, and 4 or 5 of us that went to school and whatever. There's about 10 of us on the call, few beers, chatting, and it got around to the topic. The boys started asking, how's your mum, Martin? And I start to talk about it and whatever. And, a lot of the guys on the call, had the cans in hand. They were just like, yeah, it's awful. Yeah. I hear what you, and one of my mates who, is real close to me just went, Jesus, stop being a wuss. Man up, will you? Now, I know stereotypically we talk about that's part of the issue. But at that point in time, during the conversation, that lad knew to cut the conversation and to get me out of a situation where we were all just kind of sitting nodding and everybody was feeling sorry for me, was to slap me with that one comment, which was, Jesus, man up, will you? Because it kind of gave me that kick. And it wasn't until I came off the show, off the Zoom call with them, and I came back down the stairs, sat in front of my youngest lad, and I went, do you know what? I do need to snap out a little bit, and I can't keep... I think with me, what I tend to do is I tend to try and worry. I worry about things I can't control. And I think certainly what I've tried to do, over certainly since my mum's second attempt is I've tried not to focus on worrying on shit that I can do nothing about. Be it a conversation in Twitter, be it the price of something in the shop, small things that bug me. The slowness of Ireland's rollout on the vaccines drives me, it makes me go mad. but I can't control it. But I find what I found is and I think Rich, me and you were talking about this. One of the things I found, certainly through lockdown, it's the real small things that annoy me. It's not the big things. It's not all these major things that are happening around me. It's like a towel out of place, or, me kitchen cupboard door is slightly hanging off a little bit. And it's kind of like, maybe I've gained a touch of OCD or something during lockdown. And I know, I'm not making a joke about that, but
I can relate.
Yeah, I think, things make you react. And I think, I've made a point of saying, right, this year, certainly the next while, I wanted to do this show. I'm definitely going to get some counseling because I have certain things that I want to talk about, and I feel that there's an appropriate way of doing that. I definitely think we need to run more shows like this, and I think the more people we can get talking, the more we will break down the stigma. And I think the other thing, for me, my goal, heading into the summer and into the latter part of the year is just to stop freaking out about shit I can't control, and enjoy the one life that I have got. And I got sent a second message after the second attempt at my mum, and the person said to me, "You've got to imagine life is like a football. You only get one kick at it, so kick it hard." And I think it's an absolutely amazing statement and a brilliant comment. And I can't for the life of me remember who sent it to me. I will try and dig it back out. I'll put it up on my Twitter. But it was just brilliant. And I think that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to grab life like it's a football, and I'm going to kick on, and I'm going to not panic about, the bits that bug me. And I'm going to enjoy the ride that we're on. So I don't know, Richie, what else do you want to add, mate? I'm kind of conscious of time. We're about 10 to 9 here now, and I don't want to keep everybody all night long. How do we break it down? What do we do, lad?
I think we've just got to have the confidence to open up, whether it be to a friend, whether it's to numerous mental health charities that are out there. Obviously we're sponsored by Mind, Body or Soul, who do fantastic work for, in particular, men's mental health, but obviously there's men's health as well, kind as well. Samaritan, reach out for someone. For me locally in County Durham, it was someone called Talking Changes, which obviously if anybody in County Durham is suffering like I have, if they want to reach out to them, I've got the number. You can self-refer yourself as well. You don't need to go through your doctor for something like that. I just think, or even like forums like this, as Josh mentioned, it's opening doors for people to communicate with each other you wouldn't normally. I really, really struggle to talk to any of my friends about it. But 2 or 3 people that I met through doing the podcast, I've been able to talk to, and that's helped me on my journey. And reaching out, and that's why I said to David before, when he said he'd lost a close friend, that's why I told him to give us a DM if he wants to talk about it, because he might not think there's an offer there for it. You did that last night, and you had numerous messages through, and you were talking to so many, and I know a couple got you really upset last night, and it hit you really hard. And we said, obviously you'd done some good work talking to them, sort of thing. So that those brief chats that you had with those people last night, that might make such a difference in their life, that they know that there's something they can do. They know that open up just a little bit to you, if they open up more on it, however they want to deal with it. But if they can open up and talk about it, they can start to get their life back on track. I know lockdowns affected a lot of people. It was weird for me, because for the 6 months before lockdown, people didn't see what I was going through in particular. And when lockdown came in, and I know this might sound really, really selfish because of the circumstances we were going through, but I actually recovered a little bit personally, mentally, because we were stuck within 4 walls pretty much for the start of lockdown. When it first kicked in, we weren't allowed to do anything really. Nobody knew what was happening, and you were allowed to go to the shop, and that was it, or you would go for a daily walk or something like that. People were actually starting to see what our family go through on a daily basis. So I actually recovered mentally a little bit because of that, and I don't want that to come across as selfish, but it was just how I felt at the time. And obviously, it started to recover, and what we had to deal with was really, really hard because I've got my wife and my two youngest children are extremely vulnerable. So for all of the last 12 months, pretty much apart from August when we had the help out to eat out, we've had to shield. And I think we could probably I can probably count on if I had four hands, the amount of times when over the last year and a bit that we've been out as a family, which is really hard. You know, the kids have been working from home, doing this homeschooling. Our youngest wasn't even allowed to go back when they went back in March. And his life in the last 12 months as well, you know, some of the recovery I went on with my counsellor, I had to turn around and said, look, we were really hard on him because he was, you know, Jamie and Lowe's, I used to coach his football team, his grassroots team, and they decided to walk away after over the start of lockdown. And mentally, it's really, really affected him. He tried to go back to his new team that he'd left about 6 months before, but because they'd been back in training for 6 to 7 months, and he didn't have the level of fitness he had before, it really, really affected him. He started to have, you know, panic attacks and anxiety on the pitch, and he felt as though he needed to take his inhaler more just to be a relief for him. So we took him out of it, and he doesn't do it. He's given up football completely now. So since August, I would say his only outlet he had, apart from when he went back to school briefly between September and December and made a lot of new friends, has been socialising. Because of where we live, we don't live anywhere near any of his friends either. So all his interactions been on his Xbox, and he wants to spend a lot of time on that. And we were thinking, that's really bad. It's really bad. But at the same time, he's talking, he's communicating with other people. He's happy when he's doing that. He's not being depressed. And I think sometimes we need to look at that sometimes, because obviously we think as in, you know, you shouldn't be on your Xbox doing this constantly. It's bad for your health and stuff like that. That's his only social outlet. And if he did not have that over the last year, I don't know what sort of, you know, place he would have been in personally. And that's a lot to say for 11-year-old as well.
Yeah.
So I think something, you know, as you said before, Mark, about making changes, I think our parents and grandparents, as you said, were all man up, deal with it. And I think we were brought up with that, and we stopped. You try to live that, but at the same time, we're in that generation where we can change things now, and we can open up. We constantly tell our kids to approach us, talk to us, whatever. If they've got an issue, tell us.
Yeah,
they'll probably go to my wife because they feel as though in our house has always been bad cop and good cop sort of thing, and I'm always the bad cop.
Yeah,
and that's why they think your house,
you
know what I mean?
I have heard of that. Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't care if they want to go and talk to her. I'd rather than talk to her than suffer with it, and that's on any sort of thing. Yeah. So
I can relate to your story with the lockdown, Rich. I really can. It's I just got sat here thinking, because like, you know, when you go through like, I don't know if any of you have had counselling or not, but when you go through that, you're never ever really the same after it, because it's like, from my point of view, I talked about every single trauma I've ever had in my life. I'm 31 years old, you know, so I've dealt with quite a lot, and you just keep plodding on, don't you, week by week by week with work and stuff like that. You know, when like life was real, so to speak, and we didn't have this pandemic and we wasn't all in houses. And the first lockdown, when it come into play, I got to take a step back from work. So I was at home. I was on furlough for nearly 6 months. So that was the first time in my whole life since my recovery, so to speak, that I actually pushed the brake on the accelerator, you know, and took a step back and had a little bit more time for me. And I know what you said a minute ago, Rich. What you were saying about is you feel a bit bad saying it because it's kind of not all about you, sort of thing, and you don't want to come across as like an ignorance with it, because some people were working for it. But for me, when you've been through your mental health journey, it takes a little bit of you. It just does. You're never the same after it. And it was the first time I could sort of put stuff in place. And live a normal life, like, and have a little routine without having to worry about my 9 to 5. So I can really relate to that. And another thing I think is important as well, Martin. Obviously, I'm quite new to the fan channel scene. You boys have been doing it a long time, and it's very difficult little world to come into, you know, and understand it. And I feel like there's quite a lot of pressure that you don't really want to say the wrong thing because you get a bit of backlash on social media. But the one thing I want to say to people, and you mentioned Katie earlier as well. I talked to yourself, Martin and Rich off of shows, so you know me personally. And you'll know I took a break in February, and I tell you what, I felt great after it.
Yeah,
I did. I wasn't picking my phone up. I wasn't interested in what people were doing on Twitter. I wasn't interested in who had a go at De Gea starting over Henderson because he's not in form. I didn't care. I just lived my own life, watched my football team, because football is a part of mental health. It is a get out cause.
Absolutely.
And it's a very difficult thing to come into when you don't have any experience. I mean, people like Steve, they've been doing these things for years, but there's a lot of pressure going into that environment when you don't want to say the wrong thing. And I support a club the same as yours that's very toxic, and it's good to have like-minded people that. And the most important thing is to realize, for anybody listening to this, like, social media isn't real life. Like, mental health is real life. And if you're going to pick one, instead of putting that little tweet out about the lineup, and you might get a little bit disheartened, maybe go out for a little walk and listen to a little podcast or something. Do something out of the ordinary, because
get out of the situation.
When you're in the real world, like what you said earlier, Martin, put a nice little bit of music on, you know, go for a walk down the river or across the quayside or something. Do something out of the ordinary. That's what fixes mental health. Go and do something you don't usually do, and it will become repetitive, and it will help. And no matter what it is, no matter how crazy, if it's painting, if it's going on really long walks, if it's mountain climbing, no matter how crazy it seems to anybody else, concentrate all your energy on doing things you enjoy. Yeah. If you don't enjoy them, don't do them. And the last thing I would like to say as well, don't be scared to say no to people. If you're not feeling it, don't go somewhere. Don't go somewhere and try and fit in with people when you're not enjoying yourself. You might have a bad day. So what? That's okay. You can have bad days. You can have bad weeks. You don't need to explain yourself to people. The thing about mental health that I said earlier, it's individual, and you have to look after you, and you're the only one that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Keith makes a very good point there. Children and young people are under pressure to fit in and find their way at an early age. More opportunity for discussing mental health in schools, I think, is a fantastic point. We are running out of time. Just very, very quickly, Josh, the program and stuff that you've been on with the foundation, just let people know, where can they find out detail about that if they want to have a look at it?
The Be a Game Changer campaign, there is a Facebook group which is called Be a Game Changer. If you follow NU Foundation on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I push a lot of their stuff. Have a look at their website, which is NU_foundation at nufc.co.uk, or something similar to that. I always get it confused. But they're their main protocols is Facebook. There's a massive group on Facebook called Be a Game Changer, which is a massive community of people helping, supporting, and sharing their own stories.
Cool. Super. What I'll do just very quickly, I will give a shout out to sponsor of Loaded HQ. So Mind, Body and Soul, you can get online. So Adam and the guys, very similar. And I have to say, given my time, the back end of last year, I'm absolutely delighted to be associated with these guys. As it says there, it's okay to not be okay. Get in touch with the guys at Mind, Body and Soul UK. You can get them on Twitter. You can get them on the website. And what they do is they will help in a directive track, point you to the right areas so that you can get the help you need. They're also doing a lot of work at the minute where you can see here, they do a good few lines of merchandise online on the website. They are 100% non-profit charity. Everything they earn goes out to those in need. And they are even at the point at the moment of giving out donations to people who've lost jobs, are ill. They recently paid for a guy whose daughter is in hospital, and they stumped up the money, gave him the money so he could pay up and stay in the hotel near the hospital while she's getting her treatment. So they do some excellent work. So please, if you can go on there and support them, I'm sure they would appreciate, as would I. So with an hour gone, I would love and just like to thank the guys for coming on. So Josh, listen, thanks very much, mate, for coming on. I will keep following you. And as he said, get onto Josh's Twitter. Have a look at the foundation work. Have a look at the Be a Game Changer, because it is a brilliant, brilliant campaign. And I'm hugely grateful that you came on to spend an hour with us tonight. So thank you very much.
Very well.
Jamie
No worries.
Richie, obviously, listen, boys, fair play to you for coming on. Some great comments from people. We're getting a few more there. So I will, Daz says he's got Spurs rattled for tomorrow. I'm not sure whether he knows whether that's right or not. Dave Harrison says, great show, big help to me today. Thanks to everybody. You're welcome, mate. And then Keith says, thanks for doing the show. Yeah, look, I think we'll probably end up doing another one. We may get Josh back on at some point, and the lads, and we will do another one. But look, it is a topic that's there. It is very real, as everybody said. And if we can do our little bit tonight in an hour, that we make somebody think a little bit differently, and we open up a channel or a DM or a call for somebody to be able to reach out, then we've done the right thing. So on that note, I thank you all, and we'll call it a night. Thanks very much, guys. See you all soon.
Good night, lads.
Good night, everyone.
Cheers, lads.
Easy.